what's up YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent Switch/gaming video for this week, for the week of March 24th to the 30th, where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion on them. And we have 8 stories to cover this week, including some announcements that were made at PAX this week. So why don't we get started with our first story, and this one has to do with rumors going around that a revision of the Nintendo Switch could be happening. Now, since the Nintendo Switch launched back in March 2017, it has been taken off and has been doing very well for Nintendo. The whole idea of the console handheld hybrid, or the portable console, or the console you could take with you, however you want to describe it, has certainly clicked with audience and currently sits, if I'm not mistaken, at 32 million units sold worldwide. And we've gotten some good support for the system, even some good third-party support. While not every third-party game has made it onto the Switch, we've got some that were kind of surprising, like seeing Doom and Wolfenstein make its way over to the Nintendo Switch, a graphically demanding game though. As far as a revision go, it's always sort of was in the back of my mind. I always figured at some point that Nintendo would probably do a revision, though the question was when. Well, according to a report that has come out from the Wall Street Journal, it sounds like, if what they're saying is true, we could be seeing a revision sooner than we thought, and we could be seeing it sometime, I believe, if I'm saying this correctly, this year. From 2 articles, this one first from GameStop, well, I guess GameSpot to be exact. They're reporting that Nintendo Switch is to get 2 new models this year. It says, quote, according to a report from the Wall Street Journal, Nintendo will launch not 1 but 2 new Nintendo Switches models in 2019. One of these would feature improved hardware, while the others will be a pared-down version intended to sell at a cheaper price point. One of these new Switch models will sport an enhanced feature, and it's designed for, the average gamer. However, the specs won't match that of the Xbox One or the PS4 Pro. Wall Street Journal says the other system is described as a cheap option for casual gamers that Nintendo see as a successor to the aging handheld 3DS device. According to Wall Street Journal, Nintendo is planning to announce the new Switch console at E3 2019 in June, and then launch them a few months later in time for the holiday season. A Nintendo representative declined to comment when approached by the Wall Street Journal. A source explains to Wall Street Journal that the new consoles might not be what you expect. You would be wrong to think the enhanced version is similar to what Sony did with the PS4 Pro, and the other is just a cheap alternative that looks very similar to some past handheld machines, say Sony's PlayStation Vita, the source says. Intriguingly, the report goes on to claim that the low-cost Switch model is doing away with things like controller vibration in an effort to cut costs. The report doesn't include any mention of price point for either console. The existing Switch is currently priced at $300 in the US. And in another change, Wall Street Journal reports that Nintendo is working with Sharp on the display for the new Switch model. The company reportedly bid to make the display for the original Switch console, but lost out. It's interestingly enough, Eurogamer has sort of followed up on it, and they're claiming that they're hearing the same thing. According to them, they say, according to what they're saying, this one came out on the 26th. Yesterday, a Wall Street Journal report, bear in mind if you want to read the Wall Street Journal story, supposedly there is a paywall on it though, reportedly tipped not 1 but 2 new Switch models for launch as early as this summer. The upcoming models will represent both a cut price version of the existing Switch console and one that will enhance features targeted at avid, A-V-I-D, again I apologize I'm saying the name incorrectly, video gamers, the report conclude. Speaking to Eurogamer, sources closest to Nintendo have confirmed the report backs up what they have heard too in principle. Nintendo is hoping to cater to the same true audience it eventually evolved 3DS to serve with 2DS and new 3DS XL. On the cheaper option, First Yesterday reported, suggests it would be aimed at casual gamers currently still using Nintendo 3DS. The company is keen to move these players over to the Switch. Many of them Nintendo's youngest fans who've been bought cheaper versions of the 3DS. But rather than comparing it to the 3DS, Nintendo is, I'm told, keen to recapture the 2DS value proportion. Since similar to 2DS, the unit design will be struttier than the current Switch model in order to be kid-proof. Costs will be driven down by the removal of several features. Yesterday, reports mentioned the system rumble will be cut to save costs, although it's unclear if this refers to the Switch unique and more expensive HD rumble or any kind of vibration feature at all. It also states that but even a bigger change appears to be on the card, as several people familiar with Nintendo's current plan had told me the company has designed its budget Switch for an audience which uses handheld mode only. Will you be able to connect to this new budget Switch to a screen, even if via some kind of additional peripheral? It feels a huge switch from the console's MO. It's named even to drop the docking feature, but it's a change of the same magnitude we've seen Nintendo explore before. With the 2DS, Nintendo ripped out the 3DS feature to drive down price, and there was no workaround for that. As for the new soaped-up Switch, the one for avid gamers, yesterday's report mentioned it will not be getting beefed up to the spec of the PS4 Pro or Xbox One, which shouldn't come as much a surprise. I've heard the bump will be comparable to the one received by the 3DS upon its new 3DS relaunch. And finally, there's no suggestion this model might remove the TV screen docked. That's what it says, though. That's what Eurogamer's saying. Honestly, I'm not entirely shocked if Nintendo does a revised version of the Switch. As I said before, I do feel like Nintendo would probably do something like that. I just wonder if this is the right time to do a revised version. And it does kind of worry me that they could kind of split the audience and it could impact the momentum the Switch has right now. But, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see what happens at E3. As far as what I think the revised version of the Switch, and I'm referring to the one targeted towards gamers, though, if I had to take a guess what I think it could be, though, and this is where I'm kind of leaning towards right now, my guess is that it is possible that the upgraded Switch or the revised version of the Switch could use a different chipset that NVIDIA has offered for the Nintendo Switch. Compared to the second iteration of the Maxwell chip, the Tegra X1 chip that is powering the current Nintendo Switch model. And given that Nintendo has a relationship or a partnership with NVIDIA that supposedly is going to last like around 2 decades, unless something comes up or something like that, I could see where the revision for the Nintendo Switch could use a different chipset from NVIDIA. Maybe it'll use something like, say, like the Tegra X2 or something along the Tegra X2 line. Maybe it'll use something that is in some of NVIDIA's graphic cards, like maybe like Pascal or maybe Xavier, or maybe they could design a brand new chip, never designed specifically for just the Switch and the Switch only, that incorporates certain elements into their other chipsets as well, into this new chip design for the Nintendo Switch or for whatever Nintendo is going to do going forwards. But in either way, though, I could see. I just wonder if this is the right time. I mean, I think it is possible that, given the fact that we're getting close to the release of the PS5 and so forth, but I just wondering if I just wonder though, that is this a good time to do it or anything like that. So overall, I wouldn't be surprised if a revision of the Nintendo Switch happens. I could see them sort of using a different chipset from NVIDIA though, but I'm just not sure about this. I'm just not sure if this is the right time to do a revision of the Nintendo Switch since it came out in 2017. And until we hear official confirmation at this time, I would say right now I would treat this as a rumor for the moment. But I will say, if you're thinking about upgrading your Nintendo Switch, if these rumors are true, so if it does turn out to be true, I would advise that you basically consider saving up money as well. Plus, we have to hear from Nintendo how we're going to transfer data from our old Nintendo Switch into this new Nintendo Switch if this rumor turns out to be true. So overall, like I said, a revision. I'm certainly not out of the question, but I'm going to take a wait and see until we hear official confirmation. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with the announcement of the brand new Samurai Shodown from SNK, and the fact that it's coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the announcement of, I think, Samurai Shodown, I believe this is 6. It's IV. Again, I apologize if I'm saying the number wrong or anything like that. I have a hard time kind of reading, like, Roman numerals and so forth. So when it comes to games from SNK, most people know SNK from a lot of its fighting games, and particularly the King of Fighters series as being one of the most iconic fighting games out there, along with other fighting games like, say, Street Fighter and so forth, or even games like Mortal Kombat and so on. But for me though, when it comes to SNK games, I remember them mostly from their arcade games, particularly whether it's games like Shock Troopers, Super 8-Man, or one of my favorite 2D shooter series, the Metal Slug series, with Metal Slug 3 being my all-time favorite out of the entire entries of the series so far. So it's kind of interesting to see Samurai Shodown when they were not only making in a new entry, but what's also surprising is the announcement that it's also coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. From several articles, this one from Nintendo Life, it is reported that SNK has confirmed that its Samurai Shodown reboot will be coming to the Nintendo Switch in the 4th quarter of 2019. Powered by Epic's Unreal Engine 4, the title is set between the events of the original Samurai Shodown and its 5th mainline entry. 16 fighters will make the cut, with 13 of those being returning characters and 3 being brand new. More fighters are expected to be added via DLC. The game will be at PAX East 2019, which runs at the end of this month. SNK will be hosting a panel on the event entitled Samurai Shodown Resurrection of a Legend. It also points out several features that the game this new Samurai Shodown will have, which is exhilarated weapon-based combat. Samurai Shodown carries on the legacy of its tense battles the series is known for, where players are always one strike away from death and one powerful attack away from victory. Evolving the presentation. Using the power of Unreal Engine 4, SNK is able to modernize the unique atmosphere and setting of past titles and a glorious excuse me, artistic package that achieves a detail and graphic quality like never before. Unique cast of returning and new warriors. Samurai Shodown welcomes back iconic characters from past iterations, apologize for saying the name correctly, including some of the characters that they mentioned. Again, I apologize if I don't say their name correctly though. All new gameplay, carry on some of the key fighting mechanics that made the series popular, such as the rage gauge, rage explosion, sword clash, and more. Samurai Shodown will also include several new techniques, including a powerful one-time use attack from each character called the Super Special Move, and last but not least, revolutionary new AI system titled Dojo Mode. SNK has developed a proprietary, if I'm saying the name correctly, AI system that learns from players' patterns and creates a specific ghost clone for that data. With this system, players can fight against their own ghosts or take on the ghosts of top players in mock battle. So it is certainly nice that that Switch is getting more and more third-party games, and it looks like we're seeing more and more fighting games. So it's great that this new Samurai Shodown is coming over to the Nintendo Switch. It's interesting that it's running on Unreal Engine 4, since the Switch runs on Unreal Engine 4. So it should be a nice collection, a nice fighting game for those who are into those kinds of games, especially with the upcoming Mortal Kombat 11 coming to the Nintendo Switch. So what's the downside for the Switch version? Well, the downside apparently is that while the Switch version will be coming in the fourth quarter of 2019, most likely possibly in the fall or winter, the PS4 and Xbox One versions will be coming out in June. So obviously, if you're thinking about getting the Switch version, basically you're going to have to wait a little bit longer until that version comes out, though. So it's somewhat of a disappointment. We're not going to get it at the same time as the PS4 and Xbox One version. But hopefully, if that's the case, if we have to wait until fourth quarter 2019 to pick it up, hopefully that will give them time to sort of iron out any areas they need to iron out to make sure that the game runs as smooth as possible onto the Nintendo Switch. So overall, great that another fighting game's come to the Nintendo Switch. I'm sure there's an audience for it, though. Great that SNK is supporting the Nintendo Switch, whether it's their old retro games coming over to something like the new Samurai Shodown. My fingers are crossed for a new entry of the Metal Slug series on the Nintendo Switch. A little bit disappointed that obviously Switch owners will have to wait a little bit longer for that version while the PS4 and Xbox One version comes out this June. But hopefully, if we have to wait that longer, hopefully they'll iron out some of the details and make sure the game runs properly on the Switch. So overall, some mixed news, some bad news. We have to wait until 2019, but good that SNKs continue to support the Switch and put out some games for it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and this one has to do with Apple announcing the Apple Arcade. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Apple's new announcements for the Apple Arcade. Now, last week, though, Google made the announcement of their video game system, or shall we say their video game streaming service called the Strata. The idea is where you can stream a lot of these games through either your computer, tablet, phone, laptop, or TV, and so forth, though. And as I said about that video last week, that it's an interesting idea, but I think there's still a lot of questions to be asked about it. Well, this week, though, Apple revealed their thing, the Apple Arcade, along with stuff like the Apple Car, the Apple, I think the Apple magazine, or the Apple News, or the Apple TV Plus. And they also, but the one that they announced was the Apple Arcade. The idea, their take on, kind of similar to what Google's doing with their Google Strata. According to what Apple was saying, and this is from their website, though, they are basically entitled, quote, and this was released on their press release on March 25th, Apple introduces Apple Arcade, the world's first gaming subscription service for mobile, desktop, and the living room. Kind of debatable about that because Google just announced theirs last week. All right. Apple will feature brand new original games from acclaimed indie developers, major studios, and legendary creators. Like I think the creator of Final Fantasy, other creators like Ken Wong and Will Wright. Apple today announced Apple Arcade, a game subscription service that will feature over 100 new and exclusive games, including original releases from renowned creators, like I mentioned, what I said, the creator of Final Fantasy and so forth, and dozen more. Apple Arcade games will redefine games to be curtailed based on originality, quality, creative, fun, and their appeal to players of all ages. Apple Arcade will give customers the freedom to try any game from its hand-picked collection of titles that are all you can play, have no ads, ad tracking or additional purchase, and respect users' privacy. The App Store is the world's most successful and vibrant gaming platform with nearly 3,000 free or paid games, although I think that's kind of debatable at least. Free games supported by advertising or in-app purchase are enjoyed by hundreds of millions of players around the world. Again, debatable since some of the stories we've heard about when it involves in-app purchases. Paid games are often critically acclaimed and beloved by people who play them, but content with free is hard. So even the best of these games have only reached a smaller audience. With the simplicity of a single subscription, Apple Arcade will bring games like these to the App Store, more than 1 billion gaming customers. Apple Arcade is perfectly apologize I'm saying the name incorrectly, to the already enormous popular catalog of free games on the App Store, making iOS the premier gaming platform for players of all ages. They point out some games ranging from Hot Lava, When Cards Fall, the Pathless, so that's probably what they're showing right now. Apple is not just handpicking the games in Apple Arcades, but also contributing to the development costs and working closely with creators to bring the games to life. By some of the most critically acclaimed developers in the world, Apple Arcade games will entertain customers with incredibly fun gameplay and immense stories, while capturing imaginations with original art and music. The service will feature games from some of these studios I haven't heard, but like Cartoon Network, Giant Squid, Konami, Lego, Mistwalker Corporation, Sega, Snowman, Uchu Games, and a dozen more. The App Store is the world's biggest successful gaming platform. Now we're going to take games even further with Apple Arcade. The first game for Surface, Desktop, and Living Room. The Senior Vice President of Worldwide Marketing. We are working with some of the most innovative game developers in the world to create over 100 new and exclusive games to play across iPhone, iPad, Macs, and Apple TV. Apple Arcade games will be great for families, respect user privacies, and will not have ads or require additional purchases. We think players of all ages are going to love Apple Arcade. They said that it will launch in fall 2019 in more than 150 countries from a new tab on the Apple Store across ISO, Mac OS, and TV OS. And according to what they are talking about, they're saying that it's an all-you-can-pay one subscription. This is from, I think, their whole Apple Arcade page as well. The no in-app purchase, you jump from iPhone, iPad, and Apple TV, and play offline anytime, anywhere. I will say, much like with Google Strata though, I do think it is interesting, and I do think that it does have potential. But I also think at the same time it does raise some questions and all. Now, there are certain areas about what Apple announced for this Apple Arcade. I didn't see the presentation, but I've sort of read about it, that I do like. It is nice that Apple is helping with some of these developers bring these games over to the Apple Arcade. Not to mention, we're seeing some games from third-party developers come over to the Apple Arcade. Just recently, we just learned that Shantae 5 is in development, and that's coming to the Apple Arcade as well. Sega's All-Star Racing is also coming to the Apple Arcade. So so we got some third-party support. So I think there are some interesting ideas to this. Excuse me. The fact that there's no ad or no in-app purchase definitely is a plus. If they stick to that, that's great, because I don't want to see like in-app purchases or anything like that. We've heard some people concerned about with Google Strata that there might be in-game ads and all that stuff. The play offline anytime, anywhere is certainly one area I could see to a certain degree this having an advantage over the Google Strata. The fact that you could play it on your iMac and then like on your iPad or your iPhone is certainly a nice thing. But again, there's still some questions. Is this basically going to be, what kind of games are we going to get? Outside of maybe a couple of third parties, are we going to see major third party games come to it? Are the games only going to be limited to basically like just for families, or things that are just appropriate for families only? Are we going to see like, and of course, will these games, can we use a controller to play them, or is it only, you know, like mouse and keyboard or touchscreen only? So I have to say, there certainly is a lot of questions that still need to be asked about the Apple Arcade. I think it has potential, but I think it still needs to answer some questions, to be exact. As for this posing maybe any threat to the PS4 or Xbox One or the Nintendo Switch, I'm honestly going to come out and say, as of right now, I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't think that this Apple Arcade or Google Strata, if I'm saying the name correctly, I don't see those posing a threat to Nintendo Switch at this time, or the PS4 or Xbox One. Could this stuff pose a threat down the road? It's a possibility. There certainly is a possibility it could pose a threat down the road, but for now, I'm just not seeing it at the moment. So, but my overall take from Apple Arcade is it has potential, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions, though. I do, however, like the idea that you could play these games offline. That does give it somewhat of an advantage over Google Strata, and it is very encouraging that Apple's working with these developers. But it's still there's still a whole lot of unanswered questions. So right now, for me, I'm kind of taking a wait and see kind of approach on this one. So again, it has potential, but again, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4, and this one has to do with when I was talking about the Apple Arcade, is the announcement of Shantae 5. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, this has to do with the announcement of Shantae 5 was announced. Now, Shantae series has kind of been a personal favorite of mine. I really didn't get into the series until I think Risky Revenge came out. I believe that was for the Nintendo DS. That was part of like the DSi shop or anything like that. But the series was first introduced, I think, in late 1999 or early 2000, when the first entry, Shantae, was released for the Game Boy Color, before the series started making an appearance on other systems, and also other entries like Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, and 2016's Half Genie Hero, which was WayForward did a Kickstarter project for that one. Disclosure on that one, I did back Half Genie Hero when that was announced. So it was kind of nice to hear that WayForward was basically announcing another entry in the Shantae series, Shantae 5. From an article from Destructoid, they are reporting that, quote, WayForward just announced that everyone's favorite Half Genie Hero and what the author is saying, my old friend Shantae, is set to return in a brand new adventure launch in 2019. Shantae 5, which is probably a working title, will launch on PS4, PC, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and the recently announced, and I talked about this in part 3 of my 2 Cent video, Apple Arcade platform. The tweet from WayForward says, quote, today we're thrilled to announce Shantae 5. You're invited to join Shantae in a brand new adventure later this year on PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and the newly announced Apple Arcade. Stay tuned for more details. And they have a sort of an art picture that shows Shantae 5 with her hair sort of doing the number 5 right there. So that's kind of neat, though. No word about what kind of game it's going to be or anything like that, but if I had to guess, I think if it's going to be, if I had to guess what kind of game it will be, it probably will follow the formula very similar to past Shantae entries, though I could see them shaking it up a little bit, but in other words, being kind of like a little bit kind of like a Metroidvania style of a game. And my guess is going to be a 2D style of a game, since WayForward is known for a lot of their 2D games and all. So it's certainly nice that we're getting a brand new entry into the Shantae series, and I'm looking forward to trying the game out when it officially launches though. For me though, obviously it's coming to a lot of platforms, but I'm going with the Nintendo Switch version. For me, I've been playing Shantae mostly on the Nintendo system, outside of Half Genie Hero for a bit on the PS4 and Vitas, but for me, since I'm more of a Nintendo fan, I'm looking forward to picking it up on the Nintendo Switch. But whatever system works for you the best and you're into this kind of game, then go with that one as well. So overall, great that Shantae 5 is coming out this year. I'm looking forward to it when it comes out. And although I still want to hear more information about the gameplay and what kind of approach they're going with it, though. But overall, looking forward to Shantae 5. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 5. And this one, oh, my cat opened the door. This one has to do with the official confirmation that Wolfenstein Youngblood is coming to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 5 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Wolfenstein Youngblood, and that it has just recently been announced for the Nintendo Switch. Now, when it comes to first-person shooters, though, I would say I have a lot of respect for Doom and the Wolfenstein series, though. To me, I consider them to be kind of the granddaddy of first-person shooters, and I would certainly play them over, say, like a Call of Duty game any day of the year. Hell, I'll play those over Destiny, to be exact. So, it was also interesting when, back in 2017, when Bethesda surprised us with the announcement that the original Doom 2016 was coming to the Nintendo Switch, along with Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. This, to me, still surprises me to this day, that a game like that, both of them, that are supposedly graphically demanding, were able to be able to play and run on the Nintendo Switch. Now, granted, they're not exactly the version that's going to appeal to everyone. Keep in mind, the Switch version does run at 720p, 30 frames per second, but it still amazes me how well they were able to put the game onto the Nintendo Switch, and how they were able to make it run well on that system despite the system's limitations. So when it was announced, I think last year, that they were working on Wolfenstein Youngblood, though, there were some people wondering whether that game was coming to the Nintendo Switch or not, even though Bethesda had said that Wolfenstein 3 was coming to the Nintendo Switch. Well, it turns out to be that Wolfenstein Youngblood, at least according to Bethesda, though, will be coming to the Nintendo Switch. Not only that, but at least according to what GameSpot is reporting, though, is that they revealed some more details about its cooperative play, which is centered around the experience of the game. They're saying, quote, "Fortunately, you won't need to buy 2 copies of the game to experience, thanks to an unusual but welcome bonus included in the game's special edition. Specifically, those who purchase the deluxe edition can invite one friend at a time to play with them online for no extra cost, using the game's Buddy Pass. The choice friend can download and play as much as they like for free, as long as they play with the deluxe edition owner. They can then upgrade to the full game to play whatever they like with friends of their own. Additionally, if you don't like the thought of playing online with a friend, you can utilize the help of an AI teammate." I'm trying to figure out how that will work, especially in if you're playing this as a single player experience. The deluxe edition also comes with an array of cosmetic items as part of the Cyborg skin pack, while players who pre-order any version of the game will receive a different selection of cosmetic called the Legacy Pack. The base game will cost $30 in the US, while the deluxe goes to $40, though. not bad. Wolfenstein Youngblood is coming to the PS4, Xbox One PC, and the Nintendo Switch. And as far as the Switch goes, it has now been confirmed, at least according to what GameBolt, which they picked up from an FAQ, is that the one and only Panic Button is handling the port of the Switch version of Wolfenstein Youngblood. It says, quote, and according to what GamerBolt's saying, while Wolfenstein Youngblood's development is being handled by Series Custom, being handled by Machine Gun with support provided by Arcade Studio, famous for the Dishonor and the Prey game, Bethesda has confirmed that the Switch port is being handled by Panic Button. Panic Button have, of course, became experts of sort on Switch ports, especially for Bethesda's game. They helped bring Doom and Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, to the system, and are doing the same with the upcoming Doom Eternal as well. They were also the same folks that handled the port of Rocket League on the Nintendo Switch, and of course the Switch version of Warframe. So it's nice to see that despite criticism that Bethesda's had, especially how they handle Fallout 76, and don't get me wrong, Bethesda deserves as much criticism on this as possible, and they do deserve to be called out for how they handled Fallout 76. It's nice that they are still supporting the Nintendo Switch as much as possible, and it's great that they've put the hands of this port on Panic Button, and it seems as though Panic Button really has shown that how it is possible to bring these games over to the Nintendo Switch, though. Granted, I expect that the Switch version is going to be, 720p, 30 frames per second, as I think that's the most likely situation we're going to see with Wolfenstein Youngblood running on the Nintendo Switch. But it still amazes me that they are able to bring a game like that over to a system like the Nintendo Switch. And with them working on Doom Eternal, I have a feeling though that these guys will be working on, when they announce Wolfenstein 3, I have a feeling those guys will be the ones handling the Switch version as well. So great that Bethesda is bringing Wolfenstein Youngblood to the Nintendo Switch. Great that basically that Panic Button is handling the port though. Now, if only we know for certain if Rage 2 can actually come to the Nintendo Switch, or if they could bring like an actual Fallout game though. I know a lot of people will say New Vegas or Fallout 3, but I would be okay if they could bring Fallout 4 over to the Nintendo Switch. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 5, and this... Oh, not part 5, I mean part 6, my bad, part 6, and this has to do with Gearbox making several announcements. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 6 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be talking about Gearbox and some of the announcements they made at PAX this year. Now, when it comes to games from Gearbox, I'm kind of mixed with a lot of the games they have put out. Probably the most notorious one, and I'm sure all of us remember, is, of course, and I've said this before many times, Alien Colonial Marines, the game that Randy Pitchford continues to try to defend and try to pass the blame to someone else, when in reality the blame is on Gearbox and especially on him, and no matter where he goes, Alien Colonial Marines will always follow. That, and of course Duke Nukem Forever, and of course the failure of Battleborn, which had some interesting ideas but was released at a bad time with the game, mostly because it was released around Overwatch. But one series I do enjoy from Gearbox, though, that it is one that I'm a fan of, is of course the Borderlands series. This series is basically the original looter shooter. This series is both the first, the second, and the pre-sequels are fun games, and for me those games do what today's games like Anthem and Destiny can't do, and Borderlands kind of puts them to shame. So at PAX this year, Gearbox made several different announcements, two Borderlands related and one Switch related. And while there were certainly some technical issues, I unfortunately didn't watch the event, but I did read about how there were like lots of issues going on over there. So they did make three announcements that certainly did put a smile on my face. The first one, and they kind of got that out of the way, is that regardless of the rumors that came out last week, it appears as though that the rumors are true that Bulletstorm is coming to the Nintendo Switch by the name of Bulletstorm of Duke of Switch. According to Game Radar, they are basically saying, quote, earlier this month, Gearbox teased what looked to be either another Bulletstorm re-release or a new Duke Nukem game. The actual announcement from today's PAX stream landed somewhere in the middle. Bulletstorm is coming to the Switch, and Duke Nukem tags along for the ride. Since the first reveal, when I saw the capability of the latest Nintendo console, I knew we need to get Bulletstorm working on that thing, said the CEO of People Can Fly. The whole team was super pumped up on doing that. The headline for Bulletstorm Duke of Switch Edition is the Duke Nukem DLC, which adds an optional skin and voice pack that turns you into Duke. It also includes the other DLCs released for the full clip edition, most notably Bloodsynthum and Gunsona, Sonata. Those are a little bit more expensive and for my money interesting than Duke's appearance, but the main draw is still the core gameplay. Bulletstorm is just as fun of a first FPS and its creative skill shot system, which challenge you to rank up combos by chaining ridiculous stunts and finishers, have aged well. The Duke of Switch edition will be out this summer. Gearbox hasn't nailed down the price, but given Bulletstorm's history, according to what this author's writing, I bet on $40. The original version of the game was pulled from stores following the release of Full Clip Edition, and that version still goes for $40. So the good news is that the rumors from last week are true. We're getting the Duke, we're getting a version of Bulletstorm coming to the Nintendo Switch. While we don't have an official price point, hopefully it is the $40. Hopefully it is $40, and hopefully this includes all the DLCs. Now, I played Bulletstorm on the PS4, which was considered the full clip edition, and whether the foul language in the game, whether that's a turnoff or not, that's going to come down to your preferences, taste. But the gameplay was certainly satisfying and fun. So I'm hoping the Switch version runs very well, and hopefully it is $40. And here's to hoping that other games from perhaps maybe Gearbox or from People Can Fly can make their way over to the Nintendo Switch. The other announcement, of course, is the fact that apparently we're getting a Game of the Year or a remaster supposedly next week of the original Borderlands, the original looter shooter. And of course, and from the article from GameSpot, it's saying that basically describing that Borderlands Game of the Year edition will be out in just a few days. This new Game of the Year edition is described as a brand new definitive version. It's set for release on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and features the same basic content as the original game, complete with all 4 of its DLC packs: the Zombie Island of Dr. Ned, Mad Mock's Underdome Riot, the Secret Armor of General Knox, and Claptrap's New Robot Revolution. The Game of the Year edition will feature visual improvement suited for the new platforms. Gearbox boasts the PS4 and Xbox One X, and presumably those with adequate PC hardware can play in 4K and HDR, but all platforms will include improved lighting, texture, and character models. So it's nice that Borderlands, the original one, is getting a second chance. I never got a chance to finish it or anything like that. I didn't really get into Borderlands until I tried out the Handsome collection. So hopefully with these new technical issues, will make this version maybe a little bit more enjoyable than probably when it was originally released back on the PS3 and 360. So it's nice that we're getting a a remastered version of Borderlands Game of the Year Edition. Unfortunately, this one has not been announced for the Switch, so it's only for PS4 and Xbox One, and supposedly those with adequate PC hardware. But the big announcement from Gearbox, and I'm sure this is the one that a lot of people have been waiting for, is the announcement of Borderlands 3. After years and years of waiting, we finally have, although it's more of a, I don't know if it showed off a whole lot of gameplay or stuff based on the trailer that was shown, Borderlands 3 finally exists. From what GameStop is reporting though, it says, okay, well, it talks about all the stuff and everything. It talks about all, like, the characters and all that stuff. But based on what I see, I am looking forward to that game. Though, I've been a fan of the Borderlands series since, you know, I think the Handsome Collection, and I certainly is a series I definitely enjoy a lot. And I'm looking forward to when Borderlands 3 comes out. Are there some concerns I do have for it? Some areas though. Obviously they poked fun at during the PAX conference about Battle Royale, and obviously they're not doing that kind of genre, which is great, but it does raise the question of what kind of monetization is going to be in it, and is this going to be a live service or not? My hope is that it's not those at all. Hopefully we can enjoy it with little to no monetization, or to the point that we can enjoy the game without having to worry about monetization. And while there's nothing wrong with having some sort of online functionality like multiplayer or something like that, I hope this isn't a push towards making this as a game as a live service, as we saw what happened with Anthem and Destiny, and we all saw how that played out. So there are some concerns about it though, but supposedly April 3rd they're going to release some more details about this, so hopefully we'll learn more. But I am very pleased that we are getting Borderlands 3. So overall, what Gearbox showed was certainly nice. I'm glad that Bulletstorm's coming to the Nintendo Switch. I'm glad that the original Borderlands is getting a definitive edition, the Game of the Year edition, and that Borderlands 3 has officially been announced. If there is one disappointment I would have with Gearbox's announcement, and this is coming from someone who is a Nintendo fan and a Switch owner, is that while it's great that Bulletstorm is coming to the Nintendo Switch, the Duke of Switch edition, it is somewhat a little bit disappointing that they didn't announce, say, the Game of the Year edition of Borderlands coming to the Switch, or say like Borderlands 2 or the pre-sequel, or the Handsome Collection, or even Borderlands 3. Is it possible that perhaps maybe they could be waiting to announce this, like, say, like at a Nintendo Direct or a Nintendo E3? There are rumors that supposedly we'll get a Direct in April. Whether that's true or not remains to be seen. It's possible. After all, Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered was first teased for the Switch, then it was taken off, and then they showed off a trailer of Assassin's Creed Remastered, and then it was teased again until it was officially shown at a Nintendo Direct. So it was true that Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered was happening. So it's possible, but right now it seems as though the original Borderlands Definitive Edition is only going to be available on PS4, Xbox One, and for those who have an adequate PC. Borderlands 3 at this time is only going to be available right now. It looks like PS4, Xbox One, and PC is the most likely candidate. So, and I forgot to mention this, they also announced all the DLCs of Borderlands 2 that will be available in the Borderlands 2 VR. I don't have a VR, so to me that's not really a big deal. But overall, a pretty good announcement. Great that Borderlands is getting some love, and great that Bulletstorm is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 7, and this one has to do with what Monolith Soft could be working on, and it could be the next Zelda game. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 7 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be talking about Monolith Soft, and supposedly they could be working on basically the next Zelda game. Now, since the first Xenoblade Chronicles games that came out for the Wii, that was later ported over to the new Nintendo 3DS, Monolith Soft has become sort of a household name, particularly for Nintendo fans, most famous for their JRPGs. They're pretty much at this point known for the Xenoblade Chronicles series. The original Xenoblade Chronicles, Xenoblade Chronicles X, and of course Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But they also helped out in other parts too, such as supposedly they helped out with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, and of course The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is still, in my opinion, the second best Zelda game out there. Well, it seems as though Monolith Software may be the ones working on the next Legend of Zelda game. From an article from Game Industry Buzz, it is reported according to them, it's reported that Xenoblade developer Monolith Soft is hiring staff to work on a new Zelda game, having previously contributed to the development of the Switch launch title Breath of the Wild. A post on the Japanese developer website advertised a various of open positions, including programmers, designers, and technical artists to work on the new Legend of Zelda game. Monolith Soft has 3 studios in Japan. The largest one is in Tokyo, and worked on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The second studio is in Kyoto, has also contributed to Nintendo games including Splatoon and Animal Crossing. The website, which was translated by a contributor to Game Industry Biz, is working on one other production in addition to the new Zelda project. The game is being developed by the Xenoblade team. It's not clear whether the new Zelda project is a follow-up to Breath of the Wild, but the first game was instrumental in establishing the Nintendo Switch at launch and remains one of the platform's biggest seller. Not only is it one of the most critically admired game in history, as well as our Game of the Year in 2017, it also surpassed Ocarina of Time in terms of sales in Japan. At the end of December 2018, Breath of the Wild was approaching 12 million copies sold. So the fact that Monolith Software is working on the next Zelda game possibly is certainly good news, since I did enjoy Breath of the Wild, despite there were some things I liked and some things I didn't like. As for what kind of approach I would like them to take if they are working on the next Zelda game, though, I would say my opinion would be that I would like for them to continue with the open world Breath of the Wild approach, but I would make some adjustments and changes, such as like maybe not having to go through the shrines to collect the tokens needed to get either a piece of heart or, to increase your stamina meter. I would like to do it like the way it was in past Legend of Zelda games, where you could find pieces of hearts and so forth. So there are some areas I would adjust, but if true, I'm glad that they're working on the next Zelda game, and I'm also very curious to see if they are working on possibly either the next Xenoblade games, whether it's Xenoblade X2 or Xenoblade Chronicles 3, or supposedly that art style that was out, or that like art drawing, possibly a brand new game basically designed for the Nintendo Switch. So we'll have to wait and see. As far as when the next Zelda game may come out, it's possible we may have to wait a little bit, although they said it could be out sooner though, although they could be referring to the upcoming Link Awakening and that other Zelda game being designed by, I think, the Crypto Dance developers as well. So, but either way, but overall, if true, I'm glad that Monolith Software is working on on a new Zelda game, if this is correct. But I'm also looking forward to see what their next entry into the Xenoblade series, or if they're working on a brand spanking new IP that we haven't seen. So we'll have to wait and see. But overall, if this is true, then thumbs up for me on that one, because I did enjoy Breath of the Wild. I would like to see if they could take that formula to the next level. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 8, the last part, and this one has to do with EA, both one possible good news and one, of course, bad news. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our, let's see if I'm doing this quick. There we go. There we go. 8th and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with EA. Oh yeah, EA, the company that apparently has the greatest reputation of all times, and it certainly has earned it, especially with the way they've handled situations like Star Wars Battlefront 2, the release Battlefront 5, and that whole controversy, and of course Anthem, of course, that is certainly getting a lot of attention, but for all the wrong reasons, from the way the loot boxes are being done to there's nothing really much to do, to the whole bringing up the whole criticism of games as a service, to EA into BioWare and EA handling communications poorly. It seems EA has more than one way to, pardon my language, piss people off. Well, it looks like EA has done some stuff recently. One that might be good, but it could be a bit cautious, and the other one is, well, let's just say they laid off a lot of employees, unfortunately, and it just adds more to their reputation. We'll start off with the first one, and this has to do with EA signing a publishing deal with those who worked on the Skylander series called Velan Studios. Velan Studios, though. It says, according to VentureBeat, it's saying, quote, Electronic Arts has signed a deal to publish the first game from Velan Studios, an independent game development development started by game veteran GUHA and KARTHIKBALA. EA's partner will publish this Velan's first original intellectual property for consoles, PC, and mobile. In addition to introducing a unique game rail, the title will pioneer an entirely new and entertaining way to experience a community-driven, team-based action game. The mission from Velan Studio is all about trying to find new play patterns and new forms of entertainment. One of the co-founders said in an interview with GameBeat, "We are getting AAA developers together to do something very creative, not slightly better versions of something." He added, "That's why we founded with the title that is development with EA. It's a new type of player's experience, though." To bring their vision to life, Velan Studios also announced that it will add 40 jobs, doubling its current development team at the end of the year. They started the Velan in 2016 and already have 50 employees. The developers, though, or previously founded Vicura Vision, growing it from a basement startup when the brothers were in high school to a forefront of AAA console development. The team worked on titles such as Guitar Hero, the Skyline series, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and Destiny 2. In other titles, Velan Studios is looking at mixed reality games and doing so with small prototype teams that look for the spark and magic that could change the way people play. So it's very interesting that they're working on this title, and supposedly it's going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch from what I remember reading. So I wish these teams, the development team, the best of luck, but still it's coming from EA, which unfortunately, EA has a history of supposedly buying up studios, ruining them, and shutting them down. I'm hoping this new studio doesn't run into that problem, but given this is EA we're talking about, I'm a little cautious, but I wish these development team best of luck, and good luck hiring some of these employees because they're going to need them, especially after what EA has recently did with some of their own employees, which, according to another article from VentureBeat, they're reporting that Electronic Arts is laying off 350 people, the most under CEO Andrew Wilson. The article states that Electronic Arts is cutting 350 non-development jobs across its business. The layoffs are hitting marketing and analyst departments, according to a source familiar with EA and confirms by the publisher this morning. Today, we took some important steps as a company to address our challenge and prepare for the opportunities ahead, Andrew Wilson wrote in a statement. As we look across a changing world around us, it's clear that we must change with it. We are making deliberate moves to better deliver on our community, redefine our organization, and meet the needs of our players. Wilson provided some insights on where he was making the cuts. We have made changes to our marketing and publishing organization, our operation teams, and we are ramping down our current presence in Japan and Russia as we focus on different ways to serve our players in those markets, says Wilson. In addition to organization change, we are deeply focused on increasing quality of our games and servers. Great games will continue to be at the core of everything we do, and we're thinking differently on how to analyze and inspire our players, though. Yeah, I'm not buying that argument as well. I think most likely some of this could be just a reaction to what happened with Battlefield 5, and we saw the all controversy with that one, though. While I'm still certainly iffy about any time the word is being used, since we've seen that card played one too many times, EA certainly did not help themselves when one of their employees responded by saying if you don't like it, don't buy it, which, well, fans chose not to pre-order it. That basically hurted them, and they supposedly delayed the game for a month to release it supposedly during November, which supposedly it made $7 million, but it still wasn't enough money and all. This is very similar to what Activision did when they basically supposedly made a lot of money, but it excuse me, still wasn't enough, and they let go 800 employees while their CEOs are supposedly noticed as being one of the most overpaid CEOs out there. It's very sad this had to happen to those 350 employees, and I do hope they're able to find a job and all that stuff. Supposedly they're getting severance packages, so that should keep them afloat for a bit and all that stuff, but still, perhaps maybe EA should not, maybe actually make quality games for us, not focus on the so-called live servers or finding multiple ways to piss off people, which they pretty much have done a pretty good job on that department. So it's really sad and it's really pathetic that this has had to happen. Same with what's going on with Activision as well. So, and that's why I'm worried about this new studio that's partnering up with EA, considering the reputation they have earned and so forth. And I'm worried that it could follow the same path that we've seen before. EA will probably buy the studio, then input their slimy little hands in it, make it a former shell of itself, and then pretty much close the studio down. We saw that with Pandemic, we saw that with Bullfrog, we saw it with Mythic Entertainment, and recently we saw it with Vicursa Vision. So I have my doubts on it. I could be wrong, and this studio could be okay, but we'll have to wait and see. And at this point, it's like EA might as well just focus on just sport games or something like that, since that's the only thing actually making money. That, and supposedly I think Apex Legends is doing very well and all that stuff. It's like anytime EA opens their mouth, they just make things worse and worse and worse. And this it's just really sad that they had to let go like 3. It really is. I hope they do find a good job, and hopefully people will hire them, and hopefully they could reach their true potential at another job and not with EA or anything like that. So great that this new studio is working on a brand new game, but being that they are teaming up with EA, and given that they recently laid off 350 employees, excuse me, I have my doubts. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the rumor of a Switch revision? Do you think these rumors are true about the Switch revision? Do you think this is a smart move for Nintendo? Do you think this is the right time for a revision? Do you not think this isn't the right time at all? What do you think about the announcement of the latest Samuari Shodown coming to the Nintendo Switch? Are you pleased that they're bringing this game over to the Nintendo Switch? Are you worried because of the delay that game may not sell very well on the Nintendo Switch? Or were you thinking about picking up just the Xbox or the PS4 version in the first place? What are your thoughts about the Apple Arcade? Do you think there's potential in it? Do you think it will do well? Do you think it's going to flop? Do you think it will be better than the Google Strata, or do you think it will be a lot worse? What are your thoughts about Shantae 5 being announced? Are you happy that they announced this game? Are you looking forward to it? And if so, which platform are you planning on possibly getting it for? Switch, PS4, Xbox One, PC, or the announced Apple Arcade? What are your thoughts about Wolfenstein Youngblood not only getting a release date, but coming to the Nintendo Switch? Are you looking forward to trying this game out? Are you looking forward to picking up the Switch version, if that's the version you're aiming for? And if so, are you glad the panic button is working on it? What are your thoughts about what Gearbox showed off at PAX this year? Are you finally happy that they showed off Borderlands 3? Are you looking forward to picking that game up? Do you have concerns about Borderlands 3? Are you happy about Borderlands, the original Borderlands, the Game of the Year edition? Is that another one you're looking forward to picking up when that supposedly comes out in a few days? What are your thoughts about Bulletstorm Duke of Switch coming to the Nintendo Switch? Are you happy about that? Are you looking forward to picking that up? Do you think this could open the doors to, say, like Borderlands coming to the Nintendo Switch in any way? What are your thoughts about Monolith Soft possibly working on a new Zelda game? Is this something you would be okay with? Or are you looking forward to the new Zelda game from Monolith Soft? Do you think they should follow the route? What are your thoughts about what EA did? Are you happy with them hiring, working with this new studio? Are you looking forward to trying out this game? Or do you have concerns that this new studio could be gobbled up from EA, and knowing EA's history, there might be some issues with that, and the fact that they laid off 350 employees? Do you think that's a scummy move? Do you think that was expected in any way? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!